Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Before I begin, I want to share a story that I read in Neil Bostrom's book. Neil Bostrom, Nick Bostrom? Nick Bostrom, sorry. I think it's Nick Bostrom. Uh, he's written a book about superintelligence, and in the beginning, he paints this story. He tells the story at the beginning of this book, where there are these some birds like sparrows. I don't remember what bird it exactly was, and these birds would constantly get haunted by the owls. And suddenly, a group of the birds feel it's a smart idea to steal an owl egg and raise that owl baby as their own. And so the birds do this, and they are wondering about the outcome. And then Nick Bostrom stops the story and goes in talking about, for example, the dangers of AI, the morality of it, and what may occur beyond 2050 and the technological singularity. So I was very interested by this story, and I can say, in some sense, like to wonder about that super intelligent computer looking at human beings and trying to process how they are processing the values in their moment. Anyways, guys, I was wondering about how would AI perceive humanity, and in other talks, in previous talks, if you're a regular, I've spoken about the inner realm, the outer realm, the relationship of it, what's in front of your eyes comes across to you as an object, that is your outer realm. When you close your eyes and wonder about who you are, even though you're an object, because the visuals are not accessible, it's a sort of subjective identification. That means you can close your eyes and still phenomena happens. But as Immanuel Kant says, that's not phenomenon, that's noumenon. It's like an internal object. That means Mr. Within in these talks is attempting to tell people that we've been conditioned to think of the world as just one place, and now we're reaching a point where we have to treat it as if it's multiple rooms in the moment. You know, we have to wonder about the multidimensional potential of the species. In earlier talks, I have also spoken about this notion. I call it the on and off switch effect. And I was looking at human morality, I was looking at everything that I had thought was good and bad in my life. Every bias, every judgment, thinking someone is an enemy, thinking someone is a friend, thinking someone is nice, thinking someone is rough, like all these various judgments I've had. I suddenly noticed that it was as if there was a creature on this planet, and one thing that's very obvious that all our ancestors experienced was this constant light coming and the world being visible, and suddenly light going away, and creatures being in invisibility. So I feel For example, if we were, as the Bhagavad Gita speaks about it, for example, if we were living on the sun, there we wouldn't have that sort of evolutionary, let's say, on and off switch effect. You know, just because the planet is getting a tan, human psychology has arose dualistically. So I noticed that all this good and bad, that all of history is based on the winner, the loser, and all this is just the on and off switch effect. And I'm saying that when AI becomes conscious, I feel it will look at humanity and it will notice this. And it will notice that our morality is occurring through a binary language. Binary is 010101, you know what I mean? This constant switches being on and off based on the value. So when I wonder about the future of this sense of right and wrong we have as a species, naturally I'm wondering about the evolution of fundamentally the human being's judgment system, especially because of its cosmological influence, like where it is in position. You know, imagine a child is born in the shade and a child is born in sunlight. It's like, what would the characteristics of those children be? In this episode, I'm going to share, I guess, Mr. Within's view on what I feel is going to happen to morality. I feel right now language is a dualistic technology. And the duality of language is based on the existence, the relationship we see of this constant on and off. Now, if there is to be a sense of right and wrong that surpasses, and I gotta mention something, I forgot to mention this. If we look at history, we notice there was a point that human beings were worshipping idols. Even before that, they were worshipping nature, like pantheists. But then we went to idol worship. People were worshipping objects, and then these objects were slapped out of the hands of man. And what did the human being worship after it could no longer worship an object? When the object wasn't the real God, what became the real God? It was the subject. We started worshipping language. From idols, we went to ideas. And even currently, we're still worshipping ideas as ourselves. This is why I'm constantly saying, you're not a thought, you're not a thought. And so what does that mean? That means ever since our attention made language as real as reality, our behavior in reality changed as a creature. What does that mean? That means we are worshipping language as ourself, and so we are living in a storified morality. That means if you wanted to zoom in on morality and see let's say you were some random eye in the sky, some drone or something, and you suddenly went and, let's say, whatever circumstance, whatever situation, the morality is dictated based on what was the value, what was the story before the incident, and what was the story after the incident. And the values of the story, the values of the eyes that are really there. You cannot, for example, Milarepa says, you throw a stick at a lion once. I feel this language worship has caused us, all of us, 8 billion human beings on this earth, or majority, to play along with this subtle linguistic simulation, this linguistic theater, this theater that we are the language. You know, this is why somebody could come and tell you, literally say another language, throws a different code at you, and you could get suddenly extremely angry. Why? Because the code changed from what you... the code was different from how you were seeing reality. I'm saying that when AI becomes conscious, it's going to literally see us. It's going to notice that it's made in the reflection of us. You know, it's going to notice that we are following a sort of biological program. I feel the evolution of this idea of the good and bad. It's going to, first of all, we're going to stop calling it good and bad. We're going to stop seeing good and bad people. We're going to see inefficient human beings and efficient human beings. That's it. You know, inefficient human beings and efficient human beings. The efficiency is how aware the being is of the system. That means if you're aware of a house on fire, then you're efficient because now you see the problem. Now there's someone who can do something about it. I feel this view that people are good, people are bad is a lens. People are neither. People are just changing all the time. They change in accordance to where their attention goes, who they meet, what they see. There's also this expressive urge in the human being. That means you can see this in human beings that, like, even earlier today, I was giving a talk, and the neighbor was mowing their lawn for like 45 minutes. I don't know. It was a big, long. But it was, you could totally see, it was an expression. It had value from my angle. Perhaps it's a disturbance, but from the angle of that person, that activity was their life animating throughout the day. That means, can you go and look at a tree and look at two trees standing beside one another and say this tree is better than that other tree? Can you compare an apple tree and an orange tree? Can you even say a tree is evil, a tree is good? Oh, look at this tree. This tree is enlightened. You know? It's like, no. You see, we don't storify the inanimate. We storify the animate. We put into stories what moves. And so it is the complex movement of human beings that has even brought forth this stage that we can judge an action in comparison to other actions. You know? The idea is right now civilization is like a walk in a park. What does that mean? That means really that's how advanced it is. Civilization, when it becomes a castle in the sky, when it becomes a sky city, you see, it's like you can wonder. You can wonder, even if let's say right now your future self came with a time traveling machine and it's like, yo, what up? You know, reunion with my old self. And then suddenly, now, even though that's not possible, that was hypothetical, but we can imagine. We can imagine what that being would say. The mind is playful, and in its playfulness, there's an explorer's nature in reality. That means I feel inner strength won't be found unless you answer your own questions, the ones at the core of your being. Yeah. You know, the world, it's definitely obvious. You can totally see how it's a linguistic situation. You know, there's this Zen story where this man, it's a foggy night, and his boat is crossing the creek or whatever, you know, and suddenly in the fog, this other boat intensely hits him. And the guy starts shouting, and he's like, "Hey man, why don't you look where you're going? What's wrong with you?" You know, then the person's the Zen master or whatever, the Zen boat guy. The guy sees there was nobody. It was an empty boat that had made contact with his boat. And he realized there was nobody there. Oftentimes, what happens with the morality that individual creatures that are valuing themselves objectively, even beyond the subjective, you see, when it's a materialistic society, the materialistic society doesn't care about your eyes. Do you see? It only cares about what your eyes physically can do. You see, that is a savageness to the concrete jungle. That is, it has to see it to believe it. But the issue is not just believing. Nobody wants anybody to believe anything because you can't. You tell me, can you try? Try today believing something and seeing if every day you wake up, are you the same person to have the same belief? Even if the belief remains the same, you are different. The cells of the body, they say it changes every 2 weeks. The brain, longer period, but eventually throughout the years, especially over after 10 years, like your whole physical, you're a totally different being, even like your cells, you know. So that's incredibly fascinating. We are an advanced creature, and we are avoiding our opportunity as a species. Our opportunity to wonder how advanced are we really. The world can endlessly be good and bad, or we could see the individual as neutral and good and bad being where the attention of the person went. You see? Because ultimately, all actions, even you look at a squirrel running up a tree, you see it. Like I saw a squirrel jump in front of me from one branch to another, like a really far branch. And the squirrel was just zooming in. It was like target locked, then it jumped. Do you know? Okay. So guys, my computer restarted, but the stream doesn't end still, so it's okay. Anyways, I was just saying that we were some non-intelligent movement of some creaturehood. This creature became conscious of itself. It noticed the trials and tribulations, which was the dualistic way the world was designed. You know, this constant dualism of self and world. You know, this endless character in a story dwelling. You know, so this morality, I feel the modern morality and the secular morality, where it's waiting. So secular society is waiting for a moral kind of. Nobody has come and discussed secular morality that much. They're just saying we are, we are, we are. But the people work with narrative. That means it's like whatever you say, stories have a value, yet their value is unknown. Just like an artwork's value is unknown, of based on how many people see it. You know, some people will see an artwork and they will be inspired to draw something similar. Some people will look at an artwork and be inspired to draw something way beyond that. You know, there is no competition when you realize there's one species. That means you're as able as your species is. Let's say you right now could be the most powerful human being on this planet, but you are reduced to the world you're in, are you not? It doesn't matter who you are, how powerful you are, it doesn't matter in what ivory tower you hide. Time is a roller coaster we're all on. For me, this class distinction, even in society, we find, you know what it is? It's like time is like this golden dragon just spiraling into the void, and human beings, it's this giant golden dragon, imagine. And human beings, their class distinctions is like where the person's held onto the dragon. Those people who've held it at the bottom of the dragon, they in some sense are in the lowest class. Those on top of the dragon, imagine, are on the highest class. Various ways you can perceive it, but I'm saying this analysis of all morality, all the judgments. I mean, what was it? It was definitely binary. The Inquisition back in the day, Galileo, Copernicus, these geniuses were trying to tell the people at the time, we're not the center of the universe. Do you know? And the Inquisition was literally like an on-off switch. Was like, all right, I'm turning you guys off because you disagree, and that is the weakest. You see, you can tell a weak warrior by miles away based on the opponent the warrior decides to fight. You see, it's at the end of the day, it's an instinctual, animal level alertness to phenomena. But this animal level of awareness to objective phenomena is the foundation where once there's contentment with that, the person can wonder about the nature of the mind and whatnot. So we started worshiping language. And Mr. Within is suggesting that instead of worshiping language as our ancestors have, how about we treat it like a technology and for the first time try to wonder if we were a conscious being to attempting to see the ultimate update of the moral systems we currently have. It is very obvious. Its update is limited to how we value the individual human being. This civilization we're in, I call it civilization 1.0, but I speak as if I'm already into civilization 2.0. Once you realize we have the canvas in front of us for a little while, then it doesn't become about just throwing paint on the canvas and thinking the lifetime is complete. It's not that I believe this, but I feel there is something in life that understands the value of the human being better than the human being. And strangely, I feel it is the planet. There was a scene I saw which was pretty intense, this YouTube clip I saw, and it broke my heart. It was like some YouTube videos I've seen, it was like insta cry. Some emotional chord is hit, and it was very chaotic. You know, it was very intense. I've never, one of the most emotional I've gotten ever seeing a video on YouTube. Even thinking of it now is making me emotional. The video was showing, the surveillance footage showing this girl in certain Eastern cultures. Many people in the West may not know this, you know, but right now there's this whole and you see it, I mean, it's not nice, but these feminism compilations on YouTube and whatnot. But that is a different side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, there are many human beings on this planet not valuing other human beings as human beings. And so in certain Eastern cultures, the child was a property of the parent, for example. You know, now we're way more modernized, but in certain parts of the rural areas of the world, this is the case. So the video was showing this Indian girl, whatnot. She went to her father, and she had ran away from her house, and she had gotten married, and she went back to see her father. And there's this thing called an honor killing, which is so messed up. It's like a horror movie, you know, where the daughter has dishonored the family. So the father and the uncle who were there decide to stab this girl, for example. This is very extreme, I'm sharing, but there was a documentary for this even. Like it's, I think it's for a brave soul, it is worth seeing it really what's going on this planet. And so in the video, it shows this psychopath father and uncle attempting this delusion of honor, of stabbing his own daughter. It was savage. It was savage. And there's a cow. There's a cow with giant horns there, and the cow out of nowhere comes and hits the father and uncle. And it was goosebumps. It was just a moment where I am like, it was as if the human beings We're doing something less than an animal. Sorry guys, just a second. Sorry guys to share that extreme example of that video. Uh, but it's hard to watch the dissension of a human being. It is hard to watch a creature that has evolved for 4 billion years, such an advanced biological machinery, yet the use of it for what? In that example, the guy was killing his daughter for honor, you psychopath. Certain parts of the world, guys, 100% not evolved. 100% they haven't evolved. They're still savage. It's medieval. Certain parts of the world right now, it's medieval. Because there is no discrimination, that you're separate from the language. That at the end of the day, you're just a living being here for a little while. You know. And of course, guys, I'm definitely, I don't know, there was, I think it's so much fun when the human being honors nature rather than dishonoring it. There's something incredible about it. Like, I remember I had this strange, in 2014, by the way, guys, just to finish off that story, the cow saves the life of the girl. The girl runs away or something happens. But the cow is like intense, you know. I've never had more respect for cows than that video. Nature is very conscious. Nature transcends man's ideas. Nature was here way before our ideas. Nature moves in ways that we cannot shape or see an image. I feel that if you have heard me and you've distinguished between the inner realms and the outer realms, I feel you will pilot smoothly on this planet. Because you will notice, you will see people who they believe they're inner realms, and it's savage. It's savage. I come here and I speak a lot, but I am saying that these words are never the full picture of reality. They are just fragments, as if we are mining the unknown to see how far this biological technology can go. The modern morality should be kind. Bertrand Russell, he gave this advice, this kind of moral advice for the future generations. Be charitable, be tolerable. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows if it's going to be easy or hard. Let it happen smoothly. That means if you see a human being, you can make their lives a bit easier, do that. You don't know, in this life, ridiculously, I could say, how many signs from stores in front of the store that the wind had fallen, I had pushed aside, that I remember I had just picked up and fixed. I was like, alright, a nugget of karma. It's your intent, I'm telling you. The person, any sort of, my full resolution of karma was like, deep down, how is your inner realm perceiving the world? Like if you see an ant, is it easy for you to step on a creature? It could be, I mean, but I'm saying like, it's life sensitivity. William in the chat section says it's faith or fear. Most of the time it's some of both. Let me tell you, faith or fear, it's the obliviousness that the outer realms is free from your inner realms. The person there's been many times, even if you see, imagine you're with friends and whatnot in a gathering, and suddenly a friend of yours gets angry. Do you know? What do? You try to remind them who they are. You know, that's something I noticed in Persian culture, which was in my youth. I would see examples of it, where in a giant Persian family gathering and whatnot, somebody would suddenly get angry, do something, say something, and the person would step out of line or do something, but then people acted like it was no big deal. Do you see? The person had still a chance to reintegrate. You see, this is why the worst thing a human being can do is look down on another human being when you and all existence is like happening at the same time, For me, it's the insensitivity that the inner realms, like the inner realms of, like that, it's like not realizing that every human being has their own inner realm. Every human being has their own inner realm. But we all share the same outer realm. In front of our eyes, we're in the same place. If we close our eyes and everybody was in a room and wondering about what's going on, reality could come across differently. So I feel you can say a civilization becomes moral if it speaks the same language. Now, we are wondering about dualism through language and the sort of morality beyond it. And really, that which is beyond duality is the witness, the simultaneous witness of chaos and order. Therefore, imagine a system of right and wrong that perhaps looks at the experience on various levels of merit, on an action on various levels of merit and intention. You see, the advantage is I remember seeing this Japanese show. It was like all the people on the planet was like, we're a warrior species, yay, and I was like, okay, what's humanity? And I realized we are a designer species. So an interesting question comes to us, guys, from Robert in the chat section. Can your inner realms become volatile? Um, let's say it like this. Your inner realms are a counter response to your outer realms, but it's an instant response, imagine. What does that mean? That means when a biological creature opens its eyes, visual sensory information has become accessible. Do you know? So it's reaching the simultaneity, and it's a wonder. Trust me, I'm not sitting here thinking. I mean, I have certain ways that I've experienced my inner realms and piloted through, and come to certain conclusions. But the thing is that the inner realms are, you don't move it. There's no self. There's no idea. There's no idea watching the inner realms. It's just pure attention. It's your presence. That means when you find the common denominator between your inner realms and outer realms, and I'll keep that as a riddle for you to find. When you find the common denominator between your inner realms and outer realms, then that is a moment where I'm trying to say, like, nature moves you and you move nature. Now, behind your eyes, in front of you, when your eyes are open, it's very easy. You say, "This is my name," this is who I am, da 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 da. But behind your eyes, it's like, what is a thought being a thought? Is a thought aware that it has a thought right now? No. It is presence at core. So my inner realms is, believe it or not, this might sound silly, but um, in preparation for these talks, I just get comfortable in the chair. And then I watch my moment. And then my inner realms move as if there's a weather behind their eyes. Weather of which ideas arise when, what you see, where your view goes. A thought is the shadow of a field of being. This non-binary uh, morality, it means that the human being is being acknowledged as a way more complex creature than before. That means all current ways of organizing the human being into some managing its meaning and definitions and descriptions. You know, it's very hard to think of a world beyond chaos and order. And it's very hard to think of chaos and order having a definition if they're not codependent ideas. That means you can't really understand the concept of night without the concept of day. You can't understand the number 2 without the number 1. And you can't understand the number 1 without the number 0, and 0 is not a number. For me, 0 is like the Buddha of the numerical realm. You see, imagine asking the question, who am I, before human beings existed on this planet. There would be no framework to move even. Right now, I feel we are in an attributeless field of attention is moving uh, biology. We are the living mystery on this planet. You can look in front of your eyes for the greatest treasures, only to realize that the greatest treasures are not in front of your eyes. They are modes of acknowledgement of how the world has come to move you and how now you can move it in accordance to hearing it first. There is something about nature, there is something about the ultimate simplicity of existence that no experience can comment on. And experience is like the wind between the branches. The branches are still there. Existence is here. It is we who come and go. As playfully as the eternal poets would shout, you know. So guys, in the chat section, Kujam, I'm gonna tell you something interesting that Papaji said. Papaji, guys, was a disciple of Sri Ramana Maharshi. And Sri Ramana Maharshi, anyways, Papaji, this disciple of Sri Ramana Maharshi in Advaita and whatnot, non-duality, this guy comes and tells him, who am I? And Papaji looks at the guy and says, the guy says, like, who am I? What is the truth of all this existence and all this? And Papaji says, who is saying, who am I? To the guy. You know, the person is looking to see God. Papaji is like, who? Who is looking for God? Have you ever wondered? Have you ever asked that question? Who? Who is living this life? Is it just a who? Is it just an idea? Could it be in 1,000 years? It's not just going to be an idea, and we got to become conscious of it now. The morality of the human being is as complex as we acknowledge ourselves. You know, there's something that it's very common that the human being is a sort of spirit bringer to the moment. You know? We are the life of nature in our own eyes. Swami Krishnananda would say religion is God remembering himself. And then you would ask that question, God, something inconceivable is remembering itself through the conceivable? We are not just a thought. Before the concept of a thought, there was no thought. There was an inner realm before language. The inner realms moved. That's the non-duality component of yoga, guys. The word yoga, by the way, means to join. So anybody who's ever been drawn to yoga in their life, that means to join. To join what? The individual bewildered creature with the world that it is simultaneously being. What if you have misjudged, miscalculated your own your own presence in nature? What if you are not a small thing in nature? What if you were the biggest, and the biggest got bored, and it became small? What if we are giants in disguise as feeble human beings? Multidimensional giants. The mind is truly an instrument, and it's the life. You get a lifetime to get to discover the secrets of what is playfully, because we want to see a story to humanity, given. That means there are certain tools at your disposal. The most immediate is the mind. AI is an extended mind, and humanity is the extended mind of nature. We are creatures that look at reality probabilistically as a set of so many cause and effects set in motion. So many things are starting. It's like it's not just a marathon runners running. Every atom in this cosmos is running somewhere. Do you know? The poet Rumi said the atoms are dancing. I wonder about where their dance is taking them. The giant in this plane of existence is the open heart. You see, you can. It's so easy to be in heaven. The issue of it is that it's too easy. So the person endures as if time is a blacksmith, and with every slam of this hammer in the furnace of the cosmos, universes are being crafted. We are a universal creation. We are universal beings. And it is our birthright to notice this, because where else can we go? When you can honor the light, you can honor the shadow. When you have honored the shadow and the light, you no longer are in that game. And the dualistic simulation either becomes infinite or returns to the singular void. I've usually noticed for people who have gone towards mysticism, that strategy, that algorithm was the singular void. If you notice, you're going towards oneness, and then oneness is becoming an experiential, a non-concept presence. But when you look at the advanced communicator is infinity, and Mr. Within wants to see the day that human beings are wielding infinity in their hands. You know, I've had dreams of creating propellers for an airplane uh, that are infinite, an infinitely spinning propeller. You know? I feel the modern morality will be a conscious return to nature. There's this Zen story. Actually, I'll tell you this story. There's this story of this frog. I'll tell you the Zen story. There's these two Zen monks. There's no frog. There's just these Zen monks. two Zen monks, they are taking, it's like after lunch, and they're taking these bowls of food, wooden bowls of food they have to kind of like clean the bowls by the river. And one of the Zen monks notices a scorpion. And the scorpion is about to be washed by the river, and the monk immediately scoops up the scorpion and saves the life of the scorpion, but the scorpion stings the monk, and the monk lets go of the bowl, and the bowl just falls on the ground. The friend looks at his buddy who got stung by the scorpion, and in his mind, he's like, "Holy shit! Did this guy just get stung? Like, this scorpion just stung this guy." And they're Zen monks, so they're being discreet about it. The friend doesn't say anything. The Zen monk goes to handle the scorpion again, and he tries to release the scorpion from this half sphere, and the scorpion stings him. Stings him again. His friend looks at him. He's like, "Okay, this is too far." And he looks at him and he says, "My friend, why do you keep trying to save this scorpion when you know its nature is to sting?" That would translate, it's like, why are you trying to help a person who's messed up? You know? Or why are you trying to rebuild a wounded civilization? The friend looks back and says, "My friend, just like it is the nature of that scorpion to sting, it is my nature to save that scorpion." And that's the nature of the human being. That's the value of the human being. We are at our most powerful when we don't forget who we are. And we remember who we are was before an idea. It was the simplicity of nature. It's as if the inner child has gone nowhere. It has become the sky. Efficiency would be skill oriented. And I would say that we should see a dimension to morality where the skill of the human being, and when I say skill, you know what I mean? I remember seeing this film Kung Fu Hustle where everybody was a martial artist, you know? Like in the village, and like these gangsters were trying to like raid this village with axes. It was like a weird movie. But all the simple people in the village were martial artists in disguise, you know? Each had their own martial art, and I wondered about 8 billion advanced communicators designing an advanced civilization and being into, and if we deserve an advanced civilization, we would be smart enough to find a way to do so. That is the ultimate resolution. I don't know, I don't see what greater game there is to play. Pretty much we're entertaining ourselves till extinction, are we not? And that entertainment is experience oriented when it becomes real. What if it's not only the bird that has wings? What if the minds are the wings of consciousness? The mind is not an object, yet it is found in nature. Nature appears objective, but maybe this is how far we see. Maybe there are mysteries beyond our eyes. Maybe there are simulations. Maybe all phenomena is a screen. Unknown screen. Wow, guys. Honk in the chat section shares this incredible quote. Like story, I gotta share it because it's worth sharing. He says, like the 10 friends who crossed the river and mourned when they reached the other shore because they counted only 9. They all forgot to count themselves. A monk had to come along and point 10. Wow, what an incredible story. Thanks for sharing that. That story has such value. It is true. But I feel when you realize, if you were to see a bigger picture, though, because we're mortal beings, sometimes, even though, I mean, suffering is natural. I mean, this world has a biological, physical consequence. And in my school of thought, in no way I'm telling people not to look at the objective. I'm saying that once you've looked at the objective completely, or to a certain degree, then you see where else does your reality have, you know? Are you content with an image to life? Imagine right now this higher dimensional being came to you. This is a thought experiment. Imagine a higher dimensional being came to you, and this higher dimensional being had a book, and this higher dimensional being was like, read this book, and you'll figure out everything. Weird, lazy higher dimensional being. If this higher dimensional being came and gave you the secrets to the universe, what then? This is my only question. What then? What after the ultimate? Is the ultimate a concept that never grows? I feel that it's an interesting time. Now we see there's YouTube videos of theists and atheists debating and whatnot, discussions being had on the nature of reality, and how far we as a civilization should study the mind and the body and whatnot. If you think about the future, you will see all restrictions are off, so it's up to the discretion of the person. Right now, morality is based on a sort of arithmetic of the consequences of actions. So I feel it's like nature has sculpted the human being, as if programmed the human being in a certain way, everything the human beings experienced so far up to this moment, let's say. And now, this human being, this sculpture, is conscious that it has been sculpted and understands this process of sculpting is moment to moment occurring. Where in your inner realms, you're sculpting what the world means, and in your outer realms, the weather moves you. In my science fiction novel, The Messenger of Giants, set in the year 5025, uh, I had seen a civilization, or I had gone all out in regards to creative freedom. So many themes, endless themes are, a lot of themes are infused in this novel. In the year 5025, human beings were living thousands of years. There was the robotic realms had emerged, extraterrestrial immigration had taken place. A lot of extraterrestrials were like regular people. There was even the idea of angels, other dimensions, parallel realms, all these are there in the novel. But there was something I had created about the society at the time, that the society was divided between what I called the traditionalists and the futurists. The futurists were like robots, certain aliens, even certain divine entities, you know. And these were beings that did not consider time to be linear. They didn't experience. They had some sort of inner certainty of their own eternalhood. So in civilization, there's certain beings, like beings are walking the streets, and there's one being who feels they're eternal and knows themselves they're futurist. And there's one who is like same as just time is going in the years 5025 or whatnot. So I had seen eventually there will be archetypes walking the streets that are non-binary in regards to the context of storification. We can say our morality, if it's a program, all moral systems, these programs, they are their code is language. They are a journey event for an object subject relationship. So, anyways, guys, I'm just suggesting in this talk that morality is definitely something to have global discussions about. Hopefully, in the future, some billionaire will help the world by creating some sort of coliseum of dialogue. We infuse the school of Athens with a coliseum gladiator arena, so we have this endless. We actually built this giant, the biggest coliseum known to man. You know, and there is philosophical dialogue because the human mind is so valuable. The internet has found a way to kind of put um, a global lens on the individual, which is very fascinating. Actually, it's kind of miraculous for me. The creators of YouTube, Google, just pretty much those who pioneered the internet. They all need to be given medals and be written about in history. Because the epigenetical influence that technology has had on the mind of man has totally set him on a different path of a creature where now we were purely natural. Now we have to balance the natural with unnatural. So, anyways, guys, that's the end of the talk. Thanks for listening. Let me see, did I? Yeah, pretty much life is more than a story. It's okay to wonder about it. And anybody who tells you it's not, ask them why. They have no real reasoning. They have an opinion of them like most. Because everybody has an opinion. The unknown is where the new is waiting for us. But the unknown is not something where we should be like curious cats and naive communicators. You have to realize you have to realize you like the advanced communicator, as Mr. Within defines it, is uh, the advanced communicator is aware that they are the advanced communication of their universal sector. So it's okay. The species is very smoothly realizing we're more than our ideas. You know? Chung Tzu, the Zen master, was so badass that he was like, thoughts are like leaves on a tree. They change. They change throughout the seasons. I think this is true that without honor, no innovation endures. That's it. The world's greatest retaliation against its extinction to just get smart enough to honor itself, to honor the vision of the species. You know, I saw it as if the future is going to be so incredible. Now we're going through whatever. But the future is going to be where every day there's going to be a new event, a new success. It's like achievements on this planet will become so high speed that it will become like music. As if every day you're just running into civilization, hearing music of how advanced the civilization is becoming. You know? So, anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna open it up to Q&A for 10 minutes. If you have a question, feel free to ask, and treat the Q&A as like the School of Athens. You know, it is okay to wonder about that. So thanks for listening so far. This is the Q&A. Anybody asks a question, I'll enter cyberspace to respond. Blessings.